There is a solution for that is sponsored by VARC Solutions. VARC Solutions helps small businesses succeed by delivering expert QuickBooks bookkeeping, consulting, quick-base development, and integrated solutions. If you own a small to medium-sized business that uses QuickBooks or QuickBase, the experts at VARC Solutions can help. In business since 1999, with people who care and the knowledge and experience to solve your toughest problems. Visit varcsolutions.com for all your QuickBooks needs. Welcome back to another edition of There's a Solution for That, where we help small businesses succeed by discussing challenging business problems and best-in-class solutions. All right, welcome everybody to our VARC and Fishbowl inventory webinar. We're going to have a great conversation with some really awesome people. Kendrick from Fishbowl and Christy Clark, who's a client of QuickBooks and Fishbowl as well. And so the whole topic today is forecasting without the guesswork, how a product-based business can predict profit and cash flow. So just do some real quick intros. Kendrick, if you want to go to the intro slide. Let me get it started so I can kind of pass the ball to Kendrick. So my name is Brad White. I'm the CEO of VARC Solutions. We are a QuickBooks solution provider helping with all things QuickBooks. And a lot of times the kind of calls we get is, hey, I'm looking for a solution. And when it is an inventory-based solution, we're normally ringing up the folks at Fishbowl to help with that because that's what they're excellent at and experts at. So anyways, we're all things QuickBooks. Kendrick, what about you? How about your intro?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. So Kendrick here, I'm the chief evangelist here at Fishbowl. I've been with the company for coming up on 19 years at this point. Spent a lot of time with our product and engineering groups, as well as our sales and partnerships. So these days I spend a lot of time working with our friends over at Intuit and various partnerships. And my favorite part of what I get to do is interacting with clients and with consultants to learn about how businesses can be better with tools like Fishbowl. If you would have told me 2 decades ago how compelling inventory management and manufacturing was, I don't know that I'd believe you, but there's a lot of value and a lot of capability that Fishbowl delivers, and it's exciting to see how Fishbowl transforms small and medium businesses.
Awesome, awesome. And Christy, why don't you say hi too as well?
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm with Mac and Rex, and I'm the customer they brought on today to talk to you guys. So I'm where the rubber meets the road. So hi guys. I've been doing this for about 5 years, and I've had Fishbowl for about 3.5, 4 years of it.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Christy. All right, so housekeeping. Yeah, so we're recording this webinar. We will share the recording as well as the slides with everybody who showed up and attended today. If you have questions, you can raise your hand. You can put it in question panel. We will address it within the question panel. If it's something that, hey, we should all be looking at and talking about as a group, we'll announce that to Kendrick and Christy and let them talk about it as well. And then if you need closed caption, there should be an option on your screen to do that as well. All right, so Kendrick, why don't you introduce the agenda, and then we'll do our first poll too.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Brad. So want to start out today talking about forecasting and why it's hard for small businesses. You know, non-trivial to understand everything that needs to be purchased, when it needs to be purchased, what quantities and prices, and you know, there's a balancing act that if you're a product-based company, you're constantly going into. That is, what do I need to buy? When do I need to buy it? And how does that impact my balance sheet? From there, we'll talk about some of the tools that Fishbowl provides that really help as close as possible, give you a bit of a crystal ball approach to running your business. So some predictive dashboards and tools, and then finally into forecasting in general and seeing that in action. I think Christy has some great examples that she'll be sharing and how it's transformed her business, and you know, really driven back to how can you be a better operator in your day-to-day, make sure that you're maximizing your profitability, buying the right things at the right time. And then if there are any questions, any areas we missed, we'll follow up on that for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let me launch the first poll. Kendrick, if you want to announce it, I'll launch it behind the scenes here.
Perfect. Yeah. So the first thing we want to get into is, how does your business currently forecast inventory and demand? There are a lot of different flavors and ways that people go about forecasting. Most times, though, there's generally a format that people tend to use, whether that's, as indicated here, spreadsheets or manually, or some other system or tool.
Awesome. So I've loaded up the poll. You should see it on your screen if you want to take 10 seconds to kind of review those answers and click on one of those options, kind of give us some feedback. That would be great. And then I will sort of announce the results here in just a second, or just about, not a second, a couple seconds. Give you some time. All right.
Is that the definition of a moment, Brad?
It is.
In a moment.
It is. I'm going to give you a couple moments. It's interesting. We behind the scenes, I'm kind of seeing the results, and it's like ticking up, ticking down, ticking up, ticking down. All right, I'm going to share the results here. If you didn't get a chance to, you can always put it in the chat panel. But I think this is going to be interesting just to share. So I'm sharing the results now on the screen, and 75% of the audience basically said it's mostly spreadsheets and manual reports. 25% ERP data, but not predictive or forward-looking. And I'm just going to share my 2 cents, and then and again, Kendra, you kind of take it away. But I think that's also the challenge from my perspective with QuickBooks alone. QuickBooks by itself, has, especially with QuickBooks Online, has somewhat basic inventory. Even with QuickBooks Enterprise Solutions Desktop, which is probably more robust when it comes to inventory, still it doesn't have that same forecasting capability that you get with Fishbowl. So anyways, Kendrick, is this a surprise?
No, not a surprise at all, Brad. I think we tend to see this quite frequently, that either spreadsheets or manual reports, or maybe a little bit of insight into it, but not anything that kind of drives in a positive way. It's more, validating on what a gut feel check looks like. And if I could add to that, one of the things that we typically see is that it means it's outdated information. If you're using spreadsheets or manual reports, there's typically a window of time. For some organizations, it's quick, maybe same day. For others, it could be days or even weeks old. And that stale data leads to inconsistencies in what you see from a forecasting perspective. That's really probably the first point to hit onto as far as why forecasting can be hard, is that without the right tools in play, it's very labor intensive. And in addition to being labor intensive, it's also not live data. So we commonly talk to folks who have scenarios where the inventory lives in one system, maybe a spreadsheet or some other tool. The accounting data lives in another. And at the end of the day, one of the things that a lot of tools out there don't do is complete the story with both sides of the coin. Looking at forecasting isn't just an inventory function, just like it isn't just an accounting function. You've got to make sure, one, that it lines up on the accounting and finance side, that you can issue that PO for the items that you need, and your bank account still looks whole, and you're able to bring that in and land costs and carry that. And you need to make sure that you're getting the right widgets in the door at the right time, the right components, seasonality and trends. And if you're in a scenario where you're manufacturing, the balance between raw goods, work in process, and finished goods, all of those kind of come into play. And again, kind of going back to what the poll results showed, the reports are delayed. They don't always tell the full picture. There's typically a fair bit of work that has to be done to reconcile what the report data actually means and how that translates into what POs you need to raise. And then at the end of all of it, there's that gut check and best guess. I talked to a client the other day who they had a great deal from a vendor on buying pipe, which is a component that they use in one of their assemblies. It was such a great deal that they bought an excess of pipe. Well, it turns out when they did the math, they had over 2 years worth of pipe ready to go. And at that point, it doesn't do them much good. There lots of stories like that, where excess goods really don't set you ahead. Even though it's a great deal, You're putting cash on the shelves, and it ties it up for other reasons. So that best guess or those good deals from vendors can really become a challenge and a problem, and they cloud that judgment as far as forecasting goes. And, the other piece to that, when we think about overcoming those challenges, maybe you've got some great ways to communicate internally and with your vendors. But when you can see that full picture, and both sides of the coin with both inventory and financial data, you're more equipped to make the right decisions. And instead of becoming kind of a rote task or an operational procedure to make sure that you've got enough on the shelves to supply next week's orders, it becomes more of an art and a science than guesswork and hoping. And really, that's where things start to get exciting, is when you have the data in front of you, you can make better decisions. And those decisions transfer from being reactive to, we just missed a ship date for a customer that's a key client, into, we know exactly what to buy and when to buy it. And if you're sitting here thinking, yeah, right, it really is feasible. And Christy will talk about that and the experience she's had here in a bit. If you're wondering how bad it hurts and how much you have to spend and how hard it is to set it up, the good news is that even though traditional forecasting tools and old demand forecast models and ERP systems from yesteryear were hard and were expensive, that's not the case anymore. If you're anything like most small businesses, growing businesses, you don't have spare time and spare money. Those are two luxuries that you don't want to sink into the wrong inventory. And forecasting is one of those things that can be daunting. With the right tools in place, as we'll see here in just a moment, that forecasting can really become an exciting thing and a driver for growth in business and opportunity, instead of a really burdensome, heavy task that never feels like you get quite right. Should we jump to another poll here, Brad?
All right, cool. Let me launch the second poll here. Poll number 2. What's the biggest challenge preventing better forecasting today? So that should be on your screen now. Same concept. You got about 30 seconds here just to kind of post your answer after scanning those answers. Inventory and accounting data not tied together. We don't know which metrics actually matter. Forecasting tools that feel too complex or expensive. I'm not sure if my data is reliable, and we have already mastered forecasting. So go ahead and make your choices there. I'll give you a little bit of time to post that, and then we'll share the results. Not surprising. Not many people have said that they've already mastered forecasting.
We're just going to say we need to have them come off mute and talk to us.
All right. Another 5 seconds here, and then I'll share the results. Actually, I think we've got them all in. So let me end the poll, share the results. Okay, you should see the results on your screen now, but I'll just kind of read it out loud. It looks like the biggest one was, we don't know which metrics actually matter, Kendrick.
Which is perfectly aligned to a lot of conversations we have. And at the end of the day, Brad, that's knowing where to start. It is probably the biggest thing that jumps in, and that's as luck would have it, exactly where we're going here for the next section is when you can have the tools guide you to what does matter and where to start and what to look at and how to know what to monitor. That takes a lot of the guesswork and ambiguity around forecasting and driving through. So, a couple of thoughts on why it matters to really get forecasting down, because we've seen repeatedly over the last 25 years, the businesses who know how to forecast and how to demand plan and how to manage their inventory well are the ones that have the highest growth capability. There's more money in the bank, which makes everything easier all the way around. As far as what to do and how to start solving for some of those things, one of the very first points we talk about is connecting the inventory, the production, and the financial data into a single pane of glass. Without being able to see the full picture, you're never going to be able to get your arms around a full forecast model. There's pieces of it that you can get. There's probably pieces of it that you have today through spreadsheets or other means. But unless you can get kind of that full story end to end with what's happening in inventory, what's happening in production for those who are manufacturing, and how financial data layers into it, you're only seeing a portion of the picture. And that's where, obviously, with Fishbowl, we are connected into QuickBooks to help flow that information back and forth. Purchasing and forecasting starts well before the first PO is placed, because it's all driven by that financial system on the front end. The other piece to that is it's got to be accurate, and it's got to be timely, real-time information. So when we talk about predicting demand and replenishment and production, that can't be a process that you have to go around and count everything manually, or that you have to look through orders systematically and compare that to what purchase orders you already have raised, and what things are already inbound relative to what still needs to come in the door. And little things like shifting a receive date on a purchase order can move what that target looks like. Probably more often than not, if you're dealing with vendors and ship dates change, it's bumped out further. But there are going to be times where things come in faster than you anticipate, or a different quantity, either higher or lower than what you anticipated, comes in the door. And the trick with inventory management and with forecasting as it relates to it is you've got to know where your center point is, and what truth looks like for your items, so that demand that comes through can automatically be calculated, and you can shift and change. When you think through how spreadsheets operate, Excel is the world's most flexible system, world's most flexible ERP, inventory management, manufacturing, financial, fill in the blank. It's also the world's scariest and most incorrect. I read a statistic that 86% of all Excel sheets with a formula have a critical flaw. I don't know where they draw the line between marginal and critical lies, but when it comes to inventory management and manufacturing, I don't want anything that's a critical flaw. And we talk to a lot of folks that they've had a bad experience. The reason they start looking for a solution is they got burned in a bad way with their spreadsheet or whatever tool they were using that gave them inaccurate data. Not too many people wake up in the morning and say, I need an inventory management solution. Usually, kind of going back to where we started the conversation, you've just missed a big ship date. You've got a customer that you're in jeopardy of losing. You're not getting paid on time because there've been delays in product. You're spending too much on inventory and tying up cash. That there's some catalyst that really becomes a pain point, and you don't see those things until it's too late because you don't have that visibility.
Hey, I just want to just jump in real with a comment. So we all use Excel. I mean, some of us use Excel, some of us use Google Sheets, but we all use Excel for different things, and I think it's a great tool. You're the first person I've ever heard describe it as like a flexible ERP. But I mean, Excel is a useful tool, and I use it almost every day for different things. But I don't use Excel as like my source of truth when it comes to any other sort of operational system within our business. And I know there's folks that are out there that do. Like, I mean, they started out using Excel and they've tried to run everything in it, and like that's where they go. But that will get you only so far. But when you start getting into QuickBooks, right, and then warehouse management and all the other things that go along with that, Excel can no longer be your source of truth, and that's why it's a crappy tool if that's what you're trying to use it for. Take your data for wherever it is, send some things to Excel and number crunch every once in a while for sure. But isn't it so much better, Kendrick, when you've got an all-in-one system, that you can just real time do it without ever having to export to Excel?
Yeah, absolutely, Brad. And to your point, Excel is very powerful. Spreadsheets in general, whether it's Excel or Google Sheets or numbers or whatever tool you may use, but they're meant to be supplementary and not primary tools. And where we tend to find folks that are really having a hard time, they're doing exactly like you've described, Brad, where they're trying to use that as their all-in-one solution for whatever the application may be. General rule of thumb, if it's just you working in a file, you're probably going to be all right. The moment you've got 3 or 5 or 7 warehouse people, and that's what they're meant to be updating your inventory on, that it gets hard. And then that's when mistakes start to happen and you've got no accountability. And, kind of going through the points on why it matters, you don't see the flags to inventory when you're in Excel. You can set up formulas and things like that, but it's just not as visible to it. And certainly in most cases, flagging for stockouts or when it's time to reorder, or how the financial impact of that looks, particularly with the volatility in supply chain and changes in tariffs that are still happening all over the place, and tax and nexus and all the different factors that feed into that. It really can adjust what you need to buy and when you need to buy it, and what you can afford to do. So building out plans and tools that help you to know what to buy, who to buy it from, when to place those orders. Those are all areas that Fishbowl can help automate for you. So instead of having to remember that when you source it from this vendor, we buy in those units and it costs this much and it takes this many days, that can all just be brought together, and everybody in the business can have better visibility to that. It allows you to really transition from tribal knowledge and silos of information within the business. If you're the owner or the founder, you probably have a lot in your head already, and having to answer questions all the time and follow up on menial tasks like inventory management are just one more thing. And so this is a chance to kind of get away from some of those things. And then, as we layer into those who are doing any manufacturing, there's a whole new level of complexity there, not just in sourcing goods, but putting things together and landing in costs and labor hours and all of those things, so that you've got a good feel on when you can deliver for your customers. With that comes some exciting things to maybe talk about that Fishbowl provides. So everything that we've been working on for the last several years, and you're hearing it all over the place, is AI focused. And I know there's a lot of buzz around AI, but there are some good applications for where AI can really help out. And really, if you approach it like another employee in the business, we have some agentic capabilities, meaning that we have agents looking at the data and providing you insights on what's happening within your organization. So, some of those are going to be related to the financial side, like Brad talked about with QuickBooks. Being able to see what you're spending week in, week out, and where that's going. There's a high probability if you're a product-based business that one of your biggest expenses every month on the balance sheet is going to be your inventory. Inventory and people are the 2 big heavy hitters in a lot of cases. So having a good feel for what that looks like and having that tool to provide insights on what you should be looking, back to the survey question, a lot of folks aren't sure where to start. And these dashboards that Fishbowl provides can give you some really good insight in the areas that most businesses are looking at. Things like, what does my inventory look like? How are my finances doing? Where's my procurement processes? What do my inventory levels look like? All of those really drive toward you having better visibility. The name Fishbowl actually comes from the idea that you can see what's happening with your business from every angle. And it's kind of a funny name. In fact, our original developer back in the day, he hated the name, and I think it's part of the reason it stuck. But in all fairness, there's something good to being able to see what's happening from every angle. And it doesn't matter whether it's you as the CEO or owner, or an inventory clerk or a production manager. Everybody needs that same data in the same time. Granted, through permissions and different things, that not everybody needs to see all of the information, so that there are some controls in place for sure, but relevant to whatever their role and responsibility may be. Giving everybody the visibility and the tools they need really sets them up for success. Let's talk a little bit about forecasting for just a moment. So that's kind of a big ambiguous word, but when we talk about forecasting, we're really talking about knowing what your inventory levels look like and need to be in order to meet demands. So, the worst thing that can happen is a sales opportunity missed because you didn't have the stock or the ability to fulfill that order. The next worst thing is having so much stock that you can't buy what you actually need, and you've got dead stock sitting on the shelf. So that happy balance of what to buy and when to buy it, and so that you can take advantage of those sales opportunities, in a nutshell, is really the forecasting. And you can see here, there's all sorts of insight that comes along with this. Through the supply chain, what's our spend analysis, and what do the orders look like, and how are we trending, and what do we need to buy, line by line, as well as kind of top level. You get a feel for what the forecast looks like. It leads into what's our outstanding supply of the things that we need to purchase. So this drives toward purchasing, and I'll gloss over this because I think Christy's going to talk about it in her own experience in a little more detail. But the net would be a good insight to what needs to be purchased for manufacturing and order fulfillment. And then, following all of it up is the revenue that you see coming from that, and margins are a huge part of this. Nobody wants to sell goods at no margin or at a negative margin. And you certainly don't make it up in volume if you're losing money as orders go out the door. So having that visibility on not just what to buy and when to buy it, but also how are we doing, and what's the business health as it relates back to that. And then the last piece that I'll talk about before we jump into Christy's experience is purchasing automation. This, for a lot of folks, is one of the most time-consuming and menial tasks every single day or week that you have to go through, knowing what to buy, who to buy it from, and making sure you get that right, and then following up on the process to make sure those things come in, and then everything balances out like it should, that you're not being overcharged, that you're getting all the stock that you need, and then bringing that back in against your sales opportunities. So with that, Christy, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about Mac and Rex and the journey that they've been on?
Oh, yeah. And it's funny you're talking about this, because as they're saying, oh, I don't know what matters, or I remember, like, they're saying that they're in Excel, I'm thinking, I remember what those days were like. They were dark and dreary. And so I'm actually glad to be on the other end of that. And I'm glad you guys asked me to talk about this, because this is one of my favorite aspects of Fishbowl, which is probably why you picked me. So let me give you an idea briefly of where we were, what our business does, and how we have Fishbowl set up and how we're using it now. So we're a manufacturing company, but we also sell finished components. So people can buy from us bracelets, or they can buy like a bracelet kit where they make their own bracelets. And so it would come with all of the components and beads, and we're counting beads. And overall, I have 13,000 different products that people can purchase. And I have just under 4,000 bills of material. So by way of footprint, we're small. By way of complication, we're complex. we do everything. So what's really important for us is that visibility piece. So prior to Fishbowl, we would have QuickBooks, and we did not have a lot of visibility in the raw materials, things like that. There wasn't a way for us to accurately have multiple sub bill of materials, because I actually have 3 layers of bill of materials that go into one of these, or I might have like 6 or 7 layers, like we're talking parent, child. And then to be able to order that or know how much I could produce, I just did not have enough visibility. So what we did was we plugged Fishbowl in. When we plugged Fishbowl in, we integrated Shopify, Etsy, Walmart, Amazon. I forget all the different channels that we have that could flow into Fishbowl. We put them all funneled down into Fishbowl. My team now works only out of Fishbowl, and then Fishbowl, anything that has to do with the sales, like purchasing or receiving, once that's all complete, it actually kicks it out to QuickBooks. And my accountant has access to QuickBooks, which is actually peace of mind for me, because then I don't have my day-to-day team, who some guy that's building my bill of materials probably doesn't have the accounting knowledge he needs to be in QuickBooks. No offense. But it was peace of mind for me to kind of get them out of there. So everybody in my system, they look up their sales orders and picking and shipping. So I've got a shipping and receiving team. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. I have a sales order team that picks and pulls the orders and ships them out. And then I have a manufacturing and receiving team. So they'll receive in the raw goods, they'll build it, they'll put it on the shelf. So then the second portion of my team can go pick and ship. So all of that being said, and I hope I haven't bored you to death, the piece I love most about Fishbowl is how it organizes my raw goods and my finished goods. They actually treat them as two separate things. Like everything's a part number, but just the things I sell are called a product. And what happens is Fishbowl is tracking all of those products that I'm selling, and then it's telling me, here's what you need in order to keep up with your supply and demand. With the supply and demand, I have multiple options. I can run what's called auto reorder points. This is my favorite. And what'll happen is you can hit a button and you can say, okay, I want a forecast for the next 60 days. You can select it by vendor, by certain part numbers. So we have these trio kits that we make. And so I'll select maybe just, I want to look at the trio kits. They take us a little longer to manufacture. I want to have 15 days worth of emergency inventory, so I don't have too much, but I want to stock the shelf with about 45 days total. How many do I need to make? And it will go through and it will look at my sales history for the last period of time that I determined. So I could have it look at the last year, or I could have it look at the last 6 months, and then I can include my growth rate, which right now we're at a 34% growth rate. So I'll say, yeah, you know what? Let's forecast 34% based on my year over year. We're going to be that much busier. I just as well bring in that inventory so I'm not hurting. And it'll spit out numbers for me. And it'll say you need a max of 50 and a minimum of 25. And guess what I do? Then I go run an auto manufacture order, and it gives me a list of all the things that I need to manufacture. And those trio kits are on the list. And I just look at it and go, yeah, that looks nice. And I say, okay, produce. And so it kicks everything else out for me. So that's the manufacturing side of that. Let's talk about the ordering side. Now I have manufacturing and I have all these sub bombs and components that I need. Now I go to my auto order button and I hit auto PO, and it pulls up a list of vendor by vendor in alphabetical order. Here's a list of everything we suggest that you order based on what your current manufacturer orders open. So every morning when I get in, I will actually run my manufacturer orders for the day. And I say run because I'm really just hitting a button, just making sure everything looks fine. And then I'll run my POs and go through and make sure they look good. And then I hit email, and it emails to all my vendors, and I'm done. So I actually feel really bad that you guys are keeping track of Excel, because I feel like what I do now is going from a dirt road to a freeway, because it's actually fun. And I never thought I would say that about inventory, because it's inventory, and who doesn't want to swear about it sometimes? End of year counts, Anyway, I'll turn it back over to you guys. Did I miss anything?
Christy, maybe just one quick question. Do you remember, before you started using Fishbowl, how long it would take to do that purchasing process compared to what you spend now?
Yeah, like a really long time. And actually I would procrastinate purchasing because I was like, I do not want to sit down and spend hours trying to go through these. And that was prior to having, 13,000 part numbers. I think I only had like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 at that time when I picked up Fishbowl, but it would take me days. I hate to admit that. I'm tech savvy enough that it shouldn't take that long, but it did. And what's really interesting, and I hope you don't mind me hijacking the conversation a little bit, is I did not understand how efficient our inventory had become until I went to purchase my supplier. And so as part of a purchase process, they send over, hey, here's what our inventory is, here's what our revenue is, those types of things. And I look at her inventory and her revenue, and I realize her revenue is half of my revenue. She's been open for 30 years, given she's a little bit older generation, and it's an older archaic industry that I'm in that's getting an upgrade. So that being said, her inventory, her revenue was half as much as mine, and her inventory was 6 times. It was over 6 times what I have in stock. So I'm doing twice as much revenue with a 1/6 of the inventory because I'm doing it more accurate. And I asked her, hey, how long do you spend, forecasting, figuring out what you need to bring in, because she's bringing it in from overseas. And she said she spends 30 hours a week. And the first thing I thought was, oh, well, that's easy. I can plug Fishbowl in and that'll take care of all that, and I'll have it done in 5 minutes. But I'm not going to tell her that because I feel bad. But I had no idea that we were as efficient as we were because I didn't have anything to compare it to until I went to purchase that business. And I went, holy moly, we're doing great.
Wow, that's awesome. Kendrick, I was just going to jump in. It's like, I mean, reading between the lines, it sounds like implementing Fishbowl was important and critical to the fact that you were able to be as profitable so that you could actually even go through that acquisition.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
to
I didn't even think
buy,
about it
right?
like that. Yeah. I wouldn't have the money sitting in the bank if it wasn't for Fishbowl probably because I would be guessing on what I need to order. But instead I've got a full list of everything. Like just before we jumped on the call, I'm making a list of certain sizes of bracelets going, oh, we have overstock of this. Let's go ahead and run a sale. And actually Fishbowl and the data within Fishbowl dictates what sort of sales I run because I want to clearance that cash and be done with certain things. And it's all sitting in Fishbowl. And then all I have to do is kick it to my marketing team and say, go.
I
They
love it.
think I'm so good at what I do, but really I'm just looking at Fishbowl, but don't tell anybody.
Well, some people say, yeah, that's allowed me to play golf now a lot more, than what what I used to be able to do. My follow-up question is like, if you took all that stuff, all that time that you were spending doing it, manual or the hard way, and now you've got a more automated system, what has that allowed you to do as an owner? What has that allowed?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way. The other business that I was looking at acquiring has been in business 30 years and we've doubled their revenue and we've only been open in this business for 5 years. So it's done multiple things. I have processes in place because Fishbowl is particular about user assigning users certain things that they can or can't see. And so I'm able to put users in place to sort of automate what I would normally do, put those processes in place, and they're clean and they're not touching my accounting. So then, my accountant's coming back saying, here's how much money you have that you can spend on what you want to do next. I have doubled down on my marketing. We're integrating a bunch of AI chat. We're bringing in new products. Like we typically deal with women who are I would say 50 to 80 years old, like the beading and supplies and the bracelets that we have. But we've been able to break into kids kits. Like I made an investment in kids kits. My business has no debt. It's actually made it so it's kind of fun to play the game instead of worrying about how I'm going to pay the bill or what's on the shelf because I already know and I can see it and I can make proactive decisions instead of reactive decisions. I hope that makes sense.
No, I love it. It does. It's the words that kind of ring in my head when you talk about that stuff is instead of being mired in the business, you're now being able to work on the business and really focus
That's
more at a high level strategic, where are we going and where can we meet market demand, which is a little bit harder when you're just like cranking through a spreadsheet and spending 30 hours doing a PO. So
Yeah, I don't have to do that. I hit a couple buttons and then sometimes I feel guilty because I have my own office, but the team's in there working really, really hard and I'm hitting a couple buttons going, okay, my job's done. Now what?
I love it. I love it. Kendrick, back to you.
Yeah, well, Christy, thank you. Appreciate the insight, and hopefully this is informative. It resonates. If you would like to see some of these benefits that we've been talking about, by all means, let's reach out and see what Fishbowl can do to help you. The one other area I want to make sure we touch on today is manufacturing. So for those of you who either are manufacturing or are considering it. And not to drag Christy out here a little longer, but I think there was a time where they were just bringing things in, and now they've actually tackled that. We're seeing more and more businesses that even as traditional distributors or wholesalers are considering some version of manufacturing. Now that may not be full-scale manufacturing, but just talked to another client the other day who are in the automotive space, and they've started kitting things together. So they'll buy in components from 3 or 4 different manufacturers, and they put those together in a box and kit it. That's a form of light manufacturing, and it may seem pretty simple to take 3 widgets and put them in a box and move them along. But having the tools to help through that process is something that really helps with that benefit. Christy, I think you got a thought there, looks like.
I do have a thought there. When you said kitting, I just thought one of the things that we did that actually made it so it increased our average order value. So Fishbowl will allow us to like kit products together. So then when we go on our website, people can select different things so they feel like they're more in control. So they actually buy more, and it's brought up our average order value to use the kitting, and then it kicks over to Fishbowl, and then people would pull the order like they normally would. They have no idea that online somebody just spent twice as much as they would because they got to select things that they may have been stuck a certain way before, but now they have variation that they can pick from. I just increased my revenue on kits. So that's why I raised my hand, is like, oh yeah, that hits home. Our average order value has gone up, I think we calculated $27 in the last year. It's pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it's a great call out. And that's, when you think about why does it matter to have a good system in place, being able to have those upsell opportunities, knowing what to get, when to do it, staging the work for production before it hits the production bench, so they know what they're planning on and what needs to be planned on, and just all the way through, having that visibility on where things are at, and so you can keep the needle moving forward. The AI elements that Fishbowl provides really help automate a lot of that process as well. So quick flash into the bill of materials management. So everything in Fishbowl is going to have a recipe or a bill of materials that helps you know what to put together. To Christy's point, it can be options and variants and different things like that. If there are choices that need to be handled, that quoting and pricing process is something that Fishbowl supports really well, and they can extend out to front-end carts like Shopify or BigCommerce or wherever you may be. Through an e-commerce standpoint, same thing over the phone. We can guide people through, what the choices and options are in those configurations. Ultimately, drive not only the materials that get used, but the profitability associated with it as well. Along with the bill of materials management, we're going to have production planning, so you know what you need to do and when it needs to get done in order to meet those needs. Most sales reps are coin operated, so they get really excited about selling something, and or a lot of our businesses, they get paid when the business gets paid, and so they want to make sure that orders go out the door, that customers are paying, and production planning and being able on the front end to promise availability and deliver on those is a real strength that a lot of businesses struggle with before they get Fishbowl up and running. We transform that whole process. So from a planning standpoint, you can see what you've got, where it's at. Any gotchas that may be coming up are going to be ready and available, so you can pivot and reallocate inventory as needed. And then, overall planning in general to make sure that you've got the right staffing and throughput and inventory all balanced is a huge transformational piece for folks. So
Yeah,
good on that front.
and Kendrick, just give my 2 cents on the production planning side. You hinted at it, but if you've got salespeople and they're talking with clients, and every client in the world, how much does it cost? How long is it going to take? When am I going to get it? That kind of stuff. And so, whether it's, my business, your business, any business out there, Christie's as well, salespeople make promises. Hey, we're going to get this thing out to you, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. There's always going to be those follow-ups. When has it shipped? When is it going to ship? Is it on schedule? Those types of things. And that, again, that those disconnected systems, they can never ever tell you that. And the worst thing in the world is to have a system, quote unquote, where the salesperson is completely disconnected, and all they're just constantly calling production, calling the warehouse, calling the whatever, and saying, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Having a system like this that can actually show you and predict for you when it's going to go out. That's crucial. It keeps everybody from having to micromanage every part of it.
Yeah, for sure. The number of touch points goes down significantly. And we've learned with Fishbowl, one of the things you get is out the gate when a sales rep configures an order, there's a date on when it's scheduled to be available. And if there are any items in this case, as we're talking about manufacturing, if there's a component 3 levels down in a bill of materials, it'll call out that lead time and let you know how long it's going to take to get it. If you were to place the PO today, going back to Christie's auto PO example, you can buy that component in, but you're still not going to get that widget for, call it 18 days. And then if it takes 2 days to assemble whatever this component is into the finished good, you're 20 days out. Well, Fishbowl will flag that sales rep right there that your available delivery date is 20 days out. We're going to be the first portion of February before we can get that in the customer's hands. For a sales rep to have that level of visibility in the quoting process empowers them to build trust with the client. and then it keeps everybody else straight through that process. Brad, to your point, sales reps love to promise things and then let everybody else figure out how to deliver on it. Well, if we can get them the information they need on the front end, everybody's better off for it. And that's all part of this automated process that brings the orders and the inventory and the finances together. So it's exciting to see it finally kind of click and the value and time that comes out of that production planning.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'll ask this to Christy too. It's like a lot of companies that have an online store, and Christy, I know you've got some online channels there. It's inevitable that there's gonna be back orders. There's something you sell all the time, and things do go on back orders. But I've been a shopper, on that side of things before, where I've seen the product and it says on back order, but it doesn't say, becoming available, April 15th or becoming available, February the 2nd. It's always just, it's on back order. We'll let you know. And, what do I do as a shopper? I go find another resource. I go find another company that I can hopefully buy that thing from. So having some transparency and some visibility for that kind of stuff can, I think, ultimately lead to more sales as well.
Yeah, this is gonna, we don't do back orders because we're ahead on our ordering.
Right.
Like we don't run out. Like if we sell out of something, it's because we're done with it. We're clearancing it. We don't want it anymore. Or the only reason why it would happen is if our supplier makes a mistake or does something wrong. That rarely ever happens to us though, because I have like a safety stock level I can put in place, things like that. And so a lot of those are actually circumvented before they happen, which is nice. And the other thing that Fishbowl does that I didn't mention is it's updating quantities every 15 minutes online. So my chances of actually selling out of something when it's the last one, it's pretty slim, actually.
Love that.
Yep, and it'll deactivate them if I sell out of something, so nobody can buy it if I want it to. Like I can set certain things in there. So we're pretty smooth sailing over here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We just wrapped up a case study with a client, again, in the automotive space, a group called Diesel Auto Power. It'll be publishing here pretty quickly. And the owner up there said something pretty profound. He said the best sales rep is the guy who has it in stock. And, there's a lot of truth to that. What's more profound about it, though, is that they've actually developed a model where they supply back up the supply chain, which I don't see very often in business, that their manufacturers will actually reach out to them and sometimes buy things back to resell it somewhere else or refer sales over to them because they know that Diesel Auto Power has developed a model of having the right things in stock. Now, to Christy's earlier point, they don't have millions and millions of inventory sitting on the shelf. They've got a pretty small facility, especially given the types of components they have, but they figured out with Fishbowl what they need to buy when they need to buy it, so that they make more sales opportunities. Jacob, the owner there, he mentioned that over $1 million of annual sales is tied just to having the right things in the right moment that they can send back up the supply chain. So pretty transformational, not just on the production side, but purchasing and inventory management in general, that really helps that overall forecasting and business flow to come together. I think that takes us to our final poll question today around forecasting and what it would do to change in your world.
Yep, absolutely. Let me launch this poll, and just given the time, I'll maybe just read out the results. But so the question is, if forecasting improved tomorrow, where would it have the biggest impact? Go ahead and take about 30 seconds. Go ahead and answer that for us. Would the biggest impact be around reducing stock outs and missed sales? Would it be about freeing up cash tied in excess inventory? Would it be improving purchasing and production planning, increasing confidence in financial forecasts, or all the above? Again, I'll give you about 30 seconds here just to record your responses to that poll, and then I'll kind of share the results. Okay, see some answers coming in here. I know for some of us that would be all the above. Okay, another 10 seconds and then we'll share the results here. All right. It looks like, Kendrick, Christy, it looks like it's pretty well balanced right now, equally between freeing up cash tied in excess inventory and improving the purchasing and production planning.
So pretty much 50-50 right there.
Oh, perfect. Oh, the good news is with Fishbowl, we can do both halves of that. So you can take advantage of 100% across. If you're interested in learning more, we'd love to sit down and provide a full demonstration of how Fishbowl can fit into your business and application. Obviously, you've seen some examples here, but we're thrilled to talk with you about your specific scenarios, tools that you use, integrations that we support, and more about how Fishbowl and VARC work together to really make sure that all the pieces are in place so you can have a successful deployment and continued ongoing growth within the business. So feel free to scan the QR code here or reach out to the VARC team or us here at Fishbowl, and we'd love to get that conversation going.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kendrick. And also just Christy, thank you so much for being part of the presentation today. I learned some stuff just from listening to you. It sounds like you've got an amazing company too.
You know what? It's the funnest company I've owned. This is my 4th or 5th company, but I love this one. This one's been really fun, but Fishbowl has made it way more fun. So thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so just kind of as we wrap up, and thanks again, Kendrick, for coming on and really sharing what you guys do from a system and a software perspective. Christy, thank you so much for kind of sharing the user case for this. If anybody is looking for help with inventory, manufacturing, QuickBooks, any of that kind of stuff, Kendrick already said it's on the screen. Reach out to one of us, reach out to all of us. We'll make sure that you get taken care of. People call us and they're like, hey, I just need a little help with QuickBooks. We can do that, right? But what we always try to get as much out of the systems and software that's available to us. And if that's QuickBooks, great. But if it's like, not going to do it, I need something a little bit more, or actually a lot more robust in QuickBooks. Fishbowl is the company we lean into. And by the way, this is me just being really, really honest and transparent. It's not just the software that we recommend. It's the people, it's the team, it's the partners that we work with. So if you're looking for a software solution, there's multiple out there. Fishbowl is the best. But if you're looking for a team that's going to support you and take care of you and really care about your business and making sure that it's being as successful as possible, that's why we partner with Fishbowl. So anyways, just that kind of wanted to wrap that up in summary, Kendrick, and thanks for being part of this.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate the time being together, and hope everybody has a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you.
Happy trails.
There is a Solution for That is produced by VARC Solutions. This episode was produced by Ashley White and Aaron Riley. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Watch the video version on youtube.com/There's a Solution for That. Or visit varcsolutions.com/podcast, where you'll find our entire podcast archive, as well as show notes, links to solution providers, and complete transcripts of every episode. If you love the podcast, please leave a review with your comments.